Welcome to today's quick video on West Cornwall Local. As you can see in front of me, in front of us, we have an article that was published just today being the 1st of November 2021. Now, as you're probably aware, the West Cornwall Local DLC was actually somewhat released, half released, should I say, a couple of weeks ago. Only those who were in certain regions of the world actually were able to get their hands on the DLC, as it was pulled literally on the day of release. So other than the very few people who are in possession of the DLC, no one else yet has this. Now, we weren't given specific reasons for why this DLC was released. Was taken away. We were just told that that was the case, and there wasn't a particular date to which it would return. Now we have one, and as you can see at the beginning, Thursday, November the 4th. Now, we were simply told by Dovetail that there were some particular things that had to be ironed out, some bugs that had to be fixed, etc. I think one of them being, if I'm not mistaken, that the passengers would fall through the ground, and I think this was apparent in one of the preview streams. If I'm not mistaken, it may have been the last one before the intended day of release, and it was a bug where passengers would fall, presumably to their deaths, just before boarding the train. So there wouldn't actually be any passengers on the train because they've all fallen off before they were able to get on. But we weren't really, as I alluded to earlier, given too much information on what exactly was the issue. And now we have some news. So unfortunately, a lot of us wanted sounds. We were really disappointed with the sounds, and unfortunately, that's not something that's made its way into the updated version of West Cornwall Local. And if I'm being very realistic, I don't think it's something that ever will come, at least for the time being, only because the sounds are dependent on the physics of the train. Now, the physics of the 150 are off. They're not as realistic as they should be, and the sounds go off the physics. So to adjust the sounds properly, because they have the Rivet have been given they've bought the rights to Armstrong Powerhouse's Class 150 sound pack. So they have the right sounds, and if you've had any experience with this sound pack, you would know that it is brilliant. And that's coming from Train Simulator, where it was initially released on, and it works perfectly there. And that's because the physics on that train, on the Train Simulator version of the Class 150, are brilliantly done. Now, unfortunately, again, we can't say the same for the TSW2 version, and so that is the main reason for why sounds won't come unless the train is pretty much built again from the ground up. And if we look at Rivet's attitude to something like the Arosa line, a train, well, not even the train alone, but a route as a whole that's had so many issues since the beginning, and it's been out for way over a year now, and that hasn't been, it's barely been touched, not enough to fix everything. I don't see them putting in that much effort into this, unfortunately. So this may be something that either one, we sort of rely on mods for, or two, sort of just have to deal with. But regardless, the West Cornwall Local initially was meant to be released with one layer, and that was going to be, not even a layer actually, just the 150 itself and the Class 37, the Class 37/5, I believe, and that was it. Unfortunately, there was no HST layer. HST was actually a train that was very prominent on this route in the early 1990s. But I'm assuming due to time and the work that would have taken to bring the HST, because it's not the one that we're used to from Great Western Express. The one that ran on this line back in the 90s had a Valenta engine, which sounded different, performed a bit differently, and the model itself of the high-speed train would have had to be redone because it had a pretty different and unique look to it, one quite different from what we have once again on the Great Western Express. So we've now been informed that there's a new layer for the route, and the layout uses trains that have come from the North Transpennine route. Now, what does this mean? This means that with the West Cornwall local DLC alone, you're not going to come across anything more than the base trains, which are the 150/2 and the 37/5. If you are an owner of the North Transpennine route, then you get some extra stock. And as we'll go down further, you'll also see that if you also own the BR Heavy Freight Pack add-on as well, you will also get wagons, I believe. Now we'll go through them. First of all, we now get the 47 and the Mark II coaches for the express services. We get Mark 1 BG coaches as well, and that was used for mail trains. I think there was a scenario for that on the North Transpennines DLC. We have a Class 08, a Class 101, which has there's a small chance, as you can see, that it will substitute as a 152. And that's something that applies to all of the services. And as you can see, you have some loose stock, so wagons. And we also going to have sidings actually not empty, which is really, really good. It's very, very has a big effect on immersion. You know, when you're riding around on the rails and you're going past sidings after sidings where you should be seeing wagons and even probably locals as well. And you know, they're just empty. So that's something that's definitely going to be noticeable. And our services have now gone up to 95. Unfortunately, if you are on Epic Game Store, you won't be able to activate any of these layers, as there of course is still the issue of no preserved collection routes or DLCs being available. So you will just be stuck with the base route as is. Now, they have mentioned some tweaks to the audio. You know, but as I said earlier, it's not what we're looking for. Of course, we will only be able to judge come the 4th, and any perhaps preview streams that we may hopefully be shown before then. But I am 99.9% certain that these tweaks are nothing more than that, as they have made mention of themselves, although we stress these are tweaks rather than wholesale changes. So don't expect too much from there. Now we'll go through the other fixes one by one. As we went across already, we've now have loose stock on sidings, improved fluidity of movement after reviewing dispatcher on the route. Now, if I am not mistaken, we have certain routes on the game at the moment whereby we will encounter a red at the end of a station, and it will remain red until we have finished the loading passenger instruction. Now, this is completely unrealistic because we shouldn't see a red unless there's something ahead causing a blockage on the line. It doesn't make sense that we come across a red at the end of a station while there, you know, we can see further on a green. So it seems that they've worked on that. There's been a fix to the labeling of St. Earth services that had initially a wrong destination board. Fixed destination board logic and configuration for class 152. Head and tail light configuration for all trains en route improved. Now I can only imagine that's similar to what we had on the Boston Sprinter route when that was first released and first previewed, whereby certain locos would have the headlights on whereby there should be tail lights, and tail lights on whereby there should have been headlights on. Fixed interaction volume for doors on class 152, so it doesn't interact with the fuel cap, making late night shift scenario easy to complete. I wouldn't know anything about this thus far. I'm sure if you're one of the few who has been playing on the route and has access to it, then you will know what this is connected to. Removed blank journey entries on chapter 3. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Custom livery for class 37.5, now displayed scenario planner. That's brilliant for all of you who love creating liveries. Route intro loads on first access of route. So this is of course when you purchase a new route and the first time you load it, there'll be an introduction / tutorial to the route, kind of showcasing what the route has to offer. You know, the whole thing that tells you about route maps and collectibles and whatnot. Correct thumbnail for route on the player profile, pretty self-explanatory. Loaded turbo wagons appear as loaded when previously shown as empty. That's going to be one for immersion. Well, it would have been immersion breaking to an extent, had that still have been an issue. So that's decent. That's quite noticeable. AWS now triggers in class 150 introduction. Small minor graphical and ambient noise improvement, focused primarily around immersion at stations. Interesting. So I guess we won't really see what that's about until we get into the game. But one can imagine that, you know, sometimes, not that I can name a route off my head, but I know there are a few whereby you will, you know, pull up to a station, even with the window down, and be just met with complete and utter silence, which really does take you out. I think the West Somerset Railway is one of the few where you just constantly hear, you know, birds and wind, where you have wind noise, and some casual chatter, and it just sort of, you know, increases the immersion and makes the world feel more alive. So for now, it seems that this is it. November the 4th. Hopefully, this is one that sticks. We do see a complete release on the 4th. In my opinion, I think it's been a decent change. It's always nice to have another layer to make the route feel more alive, to kind of give us more of an option as players. You know, more freedom, more opportunity to do what we, you know, kind of want to do on the route, now that we have more stock to play around with. But of course, bear in mind that you have to be owners of certain DLCs, namely North Transpennine and the Heavy Freight Pack. I'm interested to see, as much as I'm very sure, as much as I pretty much know that the audio changes aren't necessarily huge, I still would like to. I'm still intrigued. And I'm definitely intrigued into what the community's reaction will be. So feel free to let me know. This will definitely be a day one purchase, and I'll be streaming it to sort of give you guys a preview and allow you and help you to make a more informed decisions for yourself. I'll try and be as much detailed as possible. Of course, I can only tell you guys so much, having unfortunately never ridden a class 150 yet, at least myself. And yeah, so hopefully see you guys soon in the near future. Again, the 4th, hopefully we will be able to do a stream. And once again, feel free to let me know how you feel. Are you still annoyed at the sounds? Are you a bit hopeful now that we've been told that there are some tweaks? Let me know your opinion, and see you soon, hopefully. Take it easy.